Good afternoon. Please remember to silence your cell phones. On behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Board of Directors of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club, I call to order the 14th meeting of the 62nd year of the Pro Football Hall of Fame Luncheon Club. Invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, will be given by retired pastor and club member Bob Walter.
Thank you. Will you join me in prayer, please? Our Heavenly Father, as we celebrate this holiday season with its traditions, festivities, expressions of hope and joy and love and giving, we praise your name for the greatest gift of all, which you gave in love to us, and the hope we have because of it. Bless this food we have enjoyed here today, and bless the fellowship we share at the table. Watch over us all that we might truly enjoy the experiences of sports together, and bless this meeting that we are in now, and bless us individually, and help us to be a blessing to others. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joining me today at the head table is our club vice president, Doug Miller.
Thank you.
Pastor Bob Walter. And on my left, your right, Lambros Paxos, the son of Steve Paxos. Steve Paxos, a former owner of the Canton Invaders. And our guest speaker today, Kia, the Canton Invaders. I'd like to recognize and thank our club sponsors, Aultcares Primetime Health Plan, Dr. Peter Ferguson, Liberty Ford, Marion Motley Memorial Scholarship Fund, the Bistro of Green, and Wilkshire Golf Club. I want to congratulate the Buckeyes. They will be playing Tennessee in the first round of the playoffs. I believe it will be the first time in Ohio State's history that a football game will be played at the Shoe in December. So that'll be something. That'll be first. We have calendars from Altman in the back. If you're interested, please take one. They're in the back. Also, each year before Christmas, the club donates to a local charity. And this year, I decided to donate to two different organizations. First is Wishes Can Happen and Family Living Center Homeless Shelter. Each organization will receive $500 from the club.
Good.
Next week, a representative from both organizations will be here to accept our donations and speak about their organizations. Tickets for the next meeting at the Hall of Fame will be on December 23rd, being sold today, and also will be sold next week, December 16th. And this week, Hall of Famer Mel Blount will be here in Canton December 11 through 14 as part of the Hall of Fame residency program. And my quote for the week is from J.F. Kennedy. Things do not happen, things are made to happen. And today, a 50-50 drawing, the jackpot is $187, and I'm going to ask Kia if he would please pick a winner. Rough crowd. The winning ticket, 633-885. 633-885. Right here, Ozzy. Right down here in the front. Next week, our speaker will be Sam Berkwin. And now to introduce Kia is the former owner of the Canton Invaders, Steve Paxos.
It's really an honor to introduce you to a special guest. Not only is he a personal friend and a great soccer player, but he shows exactly how far ahead of the curve we are here in Canton. Kia came to Canton in 1984. That's 9 years before Kia cars were sold in America. Born on November 10th, 1965 in Mashhad, Iran, his family fled Iran during the 1978 revolution and became U.S. citizens via political asylum. They settled in Scottsdale, Arizona, where Kia signed his first professional contract with the Phoenix Pride at the age of 17, right out of Coronado High School. And he became the youngest player at that time to sign a professional soccer contract in the U.S. A year later, he was in Canton. Kia became a star at the age of 19. That year, the brand new Canton Invaders in a brand new indoor soccer league that played at the Canton Civic Center. Over a 17-year career, he played in 9 finals, was a 9-time All-Star, and the only player in indoor soccer history to be an All-Star in 4 different leagues. He won 3 championships, 2 with the Canton Invaders and 1 with the Cleveland Crunch. He became the 7th player in indoor soccer history to score 500 goals and notch 1,000 points. He finished his career with 623 goals in 615 games. I'm going to let him tell you how proud he is to have played for the United States national team in the 1995 Futsal World Cup in Brazil. You know, Kia was only known by his first name, which was fine by me. Not only was his not only was his 11-letter last name tough to pronounce for radio and TV announcers, it wouldn't fit on the back of his jersey. You know, naturally he was liked by fans, particularly young female fans. One of our Canton Invaders stars, Art Kramet, told this story last spring. He goes on and says, 4 of our players are stopped at a red light on Cleveland Avenue. A car full of girls pulls alongside. I roll down the window and I ask, hey, have you ever heard of Kia? And they shout back, who hasn't? And they zoom off. They just sat at the green light laughing. Kia's coaching career also started in Canton. He coached the Glen Oak Varsity's boy team for 7 years. He has served as assistant coach for the Cleveland Crunch and the Cleveland City Stars. He served as the national director of the Olympic Development Program for the Super Wide League. He served as director of coaching for the International United States Soccer Developmental Academy. And he has held United States Soccer Federation BNA licenses. He's operated Kia's Kids charities that provide assistance to at-risk children, and he is considered as one of the most elite trainers in Ohio and the Midwest. 55 male and 5 female players have turned professional under his training. He currently has 7 active players playing professionally at the highest level in the USA and abroad. Coach Kia is the main staple at Go to Goal, where he provides supplemental training year-round, and he's a director at North Football Club. He is married to Nancy and has 4 children, ages 27 to 31. You know, numbers are nice, but what makes Kia truly special is his devotion to God, family, friends, and the United States of America. And most of all, how fortunate he feels to be an American with the opportunity to not only play soccer, but become a successful businessman over the years. He was always one of my favorite players, and the only player I could see eye to eye with. Ladies and gentlemen, one name says it all, Kia.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for everyone for having me. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here. I'm gonna try not to cry. So, but when Steve and I wave, do you know what it's called? Microwave. So, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my life. I don't really write speeches down, I kind of go by the heart. It's a long story, you know, what this town means to me, and you know, how I came here with just a little kid, flew into the Canton airport when there was only one terminal. I cried that day when I came from Phoenix to here. So and how, you know, as Steve explained, I grew up in Iran. I was born in Iran, and we lived through the revolution. And during the revolution, there's a lot of things that was said here that, you know, it was mentioned that I'm a man of God. Yes, I am. I'm actually a born again. 19 years ago, I accepted Christ after, you know, years and years of studying all religions in the world and figuring out when I was 12 years old during the revolution that, you know, for 2 years we didn't go to school because everybody was on strike. And everybody was on strike. There was teachers took us out to demonstrations, and the army would show up and open fire on everyone. So the stuff that I lived through my age as a young kid is probably something you don't want any kid to live through. The things that nobody really knows is how unbelievable the story is that I turned pro. I never played soccer until I came to the States when I was 14 years old. I won one game in high school. I raised money to have high school team in my junior year. We didn't have high school soccer. I raised money to start. That was actually God. So, and, you know, the whole story is just unbelievable in so many ways. The reason I signed as a 17-year-old, because back then in America, you needed 3 Americans on a roster. And because I went to high school, I was counted as an American. So growing up in Iran and during the revolution, I only had one brother, and he was definitely not into soccer or any sport. So I grew up, and we were wealthy in Iran, and we were not allowed to play in, you know, streets or anything like that. So I basically grew up ever since I was 5, 6 years old, just playing by myself in a hallway with a tennis ball. I never owned a soccer ball till I was 15 years old. I did not own a soccer ball, and I dreamt and played pretend every day that I was going to make it one day. I was going to be a pro. Every time I went to a pro game, I pretended they're going to pick one player, and that player was going to be me. Every day I trained, I pretended there was a scout watching me. And you know, they tell you if you really believe in something, that's going to happen. That's exactly what happened. In Phoenix, when I was training all day long, 7, 8 hours a day, trying to go to college, because I thought that was going to be my path, a gentleman drove up on the side I was training in a racquetball court in Arizona. He had 100 degrees. He goes, "Hey, you want to play soccer in air conditioning?" I was like, "Yeah." So our town just had gone indoor soccer. So if you know the history of indoor soccer in the United States, from 1983 to 1996, there was no outdoor soccer in the United States. The only thing that existed was indoor soccer because the league had folded. So the NASL, which started in the 70s, you know, was going on, and then NASL had an indoor league. And in my town, in 1982, and when we came here, by the way, overnight, we lost everything overnight. And the story that nobody really knows, I don't really talk about this too often, my teachers were grooming me to become a PLO suicide bomber. Yeah, so when my parents found out, you know, we're out of here. We came here, we went to Paris for 2 months trying to get a visa to come here legally, not just over the border. I didn't get any assistance. We came here legally to Arizona. We filed for political asylum, and it took me 12 years, 13 years to get it. And I actually became a citizen during the Invaders game at Canton Civic Center. So there was a lot had happened for me in this town. I got married in that building. I became a citizen in that building. I won my first championships in that building. So I could never go back to Iran, you know, for a number of reasons. One is, you know, I'm a political asylum. I'm a Christian. I would be an internet beheading candidate right away if I ever went back. So I don't have a home, so to speak, because everybody has a home. So to me, Canton has always been my home. You know, this is where my roots are. What I learned in Canton was everything about winning, you know. So when I turned pro, like I said, it was a complete miracle. As I was playing in this racquetball court, the guy says, "Hey, you want to come play indoor soccer and air conditioning?" So I went. There was one indoor facility in Phoenix, and I was an hour away. So he took me to play in the men's league. And remember I said I used to dream that there was a scout watching me? Well, the coach of the team of Phoenix, which I used to save my lunch money to go see him play, happened to have his offices in that building. And he saw me playing, and he's like, "We want to give you a chance." And he was a Portuguese guy who actually, everybody knows Pele, right? When Pele picked his top 11 all-time team, he was one of them, starting left back, and he was a little guy too. He had a mini wave. And he said I reminded him of him. I don't know how, but so he's the one that approached me and said, "Hey, we want to give you, you know, we think you're going to be a player in this league. You're not, you know where they're near now, but we think in a few years you will be. So we're going to give you a 4-year contract." And the stuff that Steve didn't mention, at that time, the record was that I was the youngest player in America to become a professional soccer player. I was also the lightest. I only weighed 125 pounds. Not like now. And I was the shortest. So all the records have been broken. You know, there's 14-year-olds now becoming pro, shorter than me have become pro, but the lightest, that's never been broken. So, I mean, I literally weighed, to this day, I mean, if you saw me walk in the street, you wouldn't say this guy was a pro. So I basically was given, and the minute that I turned pro, believe it or not, as God is my witness, I heard a voice said, "Go teach it." And I decided to go coach it. And the high school team that I raised money for to start it, we had an 85-year-old gentleman was our coach, and he let me do all the coaching, do the lineups, run all the practices. So I've been literally coaching since I was 16 years old. And coaching is what I've done. I do, you know, if you look at my signature line on my emails, there's some hashtag on it. One of them, it says TNDO, take no days off. Take time off, but don't take days off. So since I'm 15 years old, I don't take time off without the ball. Soccer is my sustenance. It's the only thing I've ever done. It's my passion. It's everything that I do. I would literally get sick if I didn't touch a soccer ball for 2 weeks. It was physically would get ill. The other thing it says on there, it says FBD, fueled by doubt. Because as long as I've been growing up, I've been told no, you're not going to make it. Someone here just told me, came over and told me that their daughter was, by the Olympic Committee, their daughter was picked to be on the state team. Well, 3 months before I turned pro, the head coach of my state team, U17 team, told me to my face, "You're too small to ever play soccer." And he cut me. For 10 years, I send them Christmas cards. Thank you. Yeah, so I've had this knack. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't take no for an answer. My wife, everyone calls me irrationally optimistic. I try to find good in everything, and I love to be told no. You can't do it. You can't do it. And I want to prove them wrong. So the other thing that it says in there on my signature line is YCBU. You can't break us. But it started with YCBM. Ever since I was a kid, I would go around wherever I was practicing next to a wall with my tennis ball. I would say, "You can't break me, you can't break me, you can't break me, you can't break me, you can't break me." And when you're playing professionally, obviously I'm in the middle of a bunch of trees. These guys are all monstrous. If you saw everything, before the game they announced us, the line goes like this, and then I was here at the bottom on the other end. So I was, basically grew up playing against guys who, and everybody that we played did one thing, try to stop me, was to try to kick me. Oh, that's the only way they knew it was, well, we just kick them. We just keep kicking them. So I grew up basically just saying to them, "Thank you, sir, may I have another? Thank you, sir, may I have another? Thank you, sir, may I have another?" My teams to this day, when I coach, whenever any of them get hit, I ask them, I go, "Johnny, what do you say?" And they'll, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" So, and a lot of that, when I turned pro in Phoenix, they told me, it's going to take a few years for you to be a pro. The first year, you're not going to play much. I actually played only in 6 games, my first year as a pro. And as pro work professionally works in this country, my team folded after the first year. So I was stuck. We can't go back to college. You know what I was going to do? I was in tryouts in St. Louis. That was the team that I happened to score my first goal. I scored 1 goal that year, and it happened to be with 2 minutes to go in a game against St. Louis to send the game into overtime. All of a sudden, the coach said, "Go in the field," and I was like, "What?" I've never played. So I was looking at the guy, and he took his eye off of me. I took off, and the ball came, and I put it in, and that was my first goal ever. So I knew that this is it. I got my chance, and I want to play. So all of a sudden, I was in St. Louis for 3 months against a team that I scored, and they were like, "You're so young. There's not even another player 3 years. There was nobody under 20 in the league, and we don't know. So him and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Steve started this league, and I get a call from the head coach, Klaus de Boer, saying, "Hey, we heard about you," and you know who called him? The goalie that I scored my first goal on. Yeah, God rest in peace. He died a few years ago playing in a soccer game, and I had just met him a week before, and I introduced him to my son. He made a dive, and his aorta broke, and he died on the field. And so the story is I owe a lot of it to everything I am to soccer, and so when I came to Canton, again, I come in here. I was injured actually because of tryouts. And I come in, and these guys have been training hard, and was the league that was supposed to be for the American players. And as long as I've grown up, and been involved in soccer, it's usually, the forwards get the glory because we score the goals. But I learned that if I wanted to keep my job, I needed to score goals because they're not going to keep me for kicking people. They're not going to keep me for being be an enforcer. So the only thing I can do is just do my job. And I always owed it all to the fans because I thought, we play for the fans. And the Canton, the atmosphere that it was we've been in the Civic Center, a small arena, we sold it out almost every game. We sold it out, and it literally feels like you were playing in front of 20,000, 30,000 people. So myself and another gentleman, Ken Lola, and as long as I've played, I've also worked in the front office. So I've handled all the community affairs, going to all the schools, and Kenny and I, and Steve is really the one that spearheaded this, he made us go to 2 schools every single day. And we went, we did our talk, we told our testimony, how we started, and the power of belief, and if you believe in what you do. So I basically grew up every day here in Canton trying to go, and when we invited all the kids to come to the games, they came in for free, and that was all Steve's idea. The kids came in for free, parents bought tickets. And ultimately, we had a good product. We won. The story that I want to say, one of the biggest stories of my life that I learned here was, not only that when you come in, you're the youngest player, and so in Phoenix, my first year, right before I turned pro, I was making $3.25 an hour, working at a grocery store. And when they told me you're going to sign a professional contract for a year, they gave me $40,000. This is in 1983. And they give me a $15,000 bonus, which what do young people do with stupid money? I bought a Fiero. Not a good move. So I went from that, and then all of a sudden that gone away. We have to come here, and I went from making $40,000 a year to making $1,000 a month, which didn't matter to me because I knew it doesn't matter. I'm doing what I love. And we just got to coach, do whatever it is, and we come in here and do what we love. Long time ago, I learned that, there's always we always have motives in everything we do. If love is your number one motive, everything's going to work out okay. It's not about money, it's not about power, it's not about fame, all that stuff. So the reason I chase that ball around and try to score goals is always because I love it. It's my passion. And I love to score goals because that means, and I learned at a very young age, I knew how one guy, in indoor soccer you play with 5 field players and a goalie, so there's 6 people, how one little guy can beat 5 guys. You know how? If I got to the ball first and I did with it as I pleased, it didn't matter how big they were. So I made it a career living of making, and my teammates, and there's boards in indoor soccer, so it means a lot of people miss. So I made a lot of living from their misses. So I cannot tell you the amount of hours that I've spent on this sport, on my craft. As long as I've, since 14, 15 years old, I journal, and I've had routines, and my kids that I coach, they all journal, and I write back to them. I mean, if you stack up my journals, it's probably higher than me. And I keep track of how many hours I've spent on my craft. They said you need 10,000 hours to be an expert at anything. By time 40, I was at 140,000 hours of time I've spent on my craft, which is the time with the ball, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. As a coach now, I coach on the average, I run about 30 sessions a week. My first session is usually 6 a.m. with the dedicated high school and college kids who go before school. I do a couple hours of that. In the afternoon, I have a couple of adults who want to train, and then all evening long, 5 days a week, I deal with the youth. I coach all the ages. I'm also the director of coaching for Chagrin and Solon, 2 communities travel program, because I'm in development business. And for me, development means I don't like to recruit. I like to get children from a very young age, and I've done this actually 27 times. The 18-year-old on my team started with me as a 4-year-old. So that's a long time that I spent with all these children. So if you really count about it, I was just counting the way here I was doing it is, if you count the amount of sessions that I run, and one of the things, the reason I'm telling you this, not because I'm tooting my horn or want to say, oh, it says, so all these sessions that I run every day, I have never in my life have done the same thing twice. All the practices that I run, it's always something different. I make it as I go. Because I look at my athletes, see what they need, and I come up with the activity. Yeah, I repeat an activity, but I've never done it. So if you're with me 1,000 days, you're gonna do 1,000 different things. 1,000 different days. And to me, that keeps them refreshed. They never know what's coming next, neither do I. But the goal is always the same. So because I didn't go to college and I turned pro here, I am a self-taught person. My days usually starts about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. I wake up, I'm in the Word, and I do my studying, my reading. I'm always reading 5, 6 books at a time. And if you guess how many soccer books do you have read in my life? 0. I have never read a soccer book, even in an autobiography, never. I'm interested in children, how they grow, how do they learn, teaching, and I've learned, the most powerful thing is if you love your athletes and you love them, their capacity for learning it multiplies by ample amount of time. So when I was here in Canton, we spend a lot of time at McKinley Monument. McKinley Monument was where we went running up and down those steps, running on. To this day, when I have children going, I tell them to write a passage. And I live in Twinsburg, and I do a lot of coaching in Avon, Westlake, and whenever a kid's ready to go to the next level, I bring him to McKinley Monument. Go up and down that hill, up and down the steps. Because I remember every day before practice at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, Kenny Lola would take me, and he was my teammate, would take me to McKinley Monument. We did hour and a half of step work. And before practice was always at 10 a.m. And some of the stuff that he taught me, that stuck with me, he was captain of Duke, Kenny Lola, and he was my teammate. When I was just an 18-year-old, didn't really know anything. He was captain of Duke. He was also a small guy. And a lot of the stuff I learned from him, he taught me to always be first at practice. During the 17-year career, I was always first one to practice and the last one to leave. There was no way I was going to leave if there was somebody else still practicing. So I stayed on that field and did whatever I had to till once they left, then I would leave. Because I learned that. So be first one there, and the value of being a good teammate, the value of how everything, and in sports, it's all about culture. It's how you live. People talk about winning in sports, about trying to put the best players together. It's a lot has to do with it's how you live. It's a culture, how you approach life, how you do everything. A long time ago, I learned every morning when I wake up, I lick my finger, I lick my hand like this to know what a winner tastes like. So I start my day that way. And the ritual makes the myth come true. So it's how you live, how you approach everything. And in this town, everything that I learned, everything that I did was, I owe a lot of it to Steve. From the day that, when I first started here, my first year here, I think I scored 52 goals and I had 15 assists. So and we won our championship. I was only 18 years old. The next year, they'll all say, well, you only score at home games. You don't score away games. Or you need to fight. We played a lot against Louisville. Louisville was our arch enemy. And one of the days, if I learned anything from Steve and their passion to do everything for us so we have a good team, one day we were playing Louisville and we're not doing so good. And he came in the locker room and he threw the garbage can. I ducked right at us and screaming at us that, Kia, you're afraid of him, da, 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 da. So at halftime, after the halftime, I went on the field, I had the ball, I passed it on the board, and I slid the guy and I broke his leg. And which is not what I'm not proud of. He's actually now the commissioner of the Indoor Professional League. And I have profusely apologized to him because he knew I did it on purpose. And he's like, I'm shocked you didn't break my leg before because all I ever tried to do was break yours. So, again, so this town, I served two stunts here in Canton. So I was here for 3 years. From 18, 19, 20, and then back in 1987, Steve, the greatest marketing mind of soccer, he sold me to Kansas City. He did, for $15,000, I remember that, which was unheard of. And the gentleman that was at Kansas City was the very coach that when I was in St. Louis for 3 months wouldn't sign me. He's like, I wasn't sure. Now he was the coach of Kansas City. He goes, okay, I made a mistake back then. We're having you back. So I went back to Kansas City. So I was there for a few years, and then I got traded to Tacoma. From Tacoma Stars, the league was in trouble, and I was coming. I knew that the league was in trouble again. As always, the salary caps were falling down. So I came back to Canton. So I was here again for 3 more years. Then from here, I ended up retiring finally with Cleveland, and I spent 17 years but 19 seasons. That means one of the years I played in 2 different leagues. Twice I did that. So through all this journey, scoring goals, the fans to me, and what it meant to play for your town, and the pride of winning and just giving it all your best has been unmatchable. And I owe so much of this town that I cannot even put it into words. And to give that kind of a touch upon that is my son grew up here at Glen Oak, and he was ironic how the Lord works is unbelievable. He was the equipment manager for a Canton Charge at age of 16. He was the equipment manager for Canton Charge. Guess where they play? Civic Center. So he came, and he was, at 16, 17, he was the only trainer at that age. Guess what locker room they used? The same ones Invaders used. So I'm there watching him at the Canton Charge in the old locker room that I used to be in. The Canton Charge is in. My own son, which is the only son, is only 18-year-old equipment manager. So how the Lord works is unbelievable. And so through this journey of playing soccer and coaching, all my studies, at 40, I was working in Peachtree City, and I finally decided to give my life to Christ. And I got baptized on Easter Sunday, at a lake, and I told my pastor, sir, I played professional soccer, 19 years. You might want to hold me under for 2-3 minutes. So through my work with Christ, and a lot of people would say, if it was a blind faith, what was it? I grew up Muslim. No, I actually studied all of them, all the religions, and this story made sense to me. And remember earlier I mentioned Ken Lola. Ken Lola was the Akron head coach. Then he went to Louisville. He was the highest paid college coach in America. 7 years ago, the Lord told him he has better plans for him, and he gave it up. He's a full-time preacher now. So in this town, we had a past, we had a Father Morrow, used to be our, our, from, I think, St. Paul's, what he was our, chaplain, right. And he introduced me to so many families in this town that they would feed us all the time. And the amount of memories that I have from this town, it's just unmatchable. So I wanted to share some with you. So I promise not to cry, but I don't know if I can do it. So last May, we had a get-together between the Crunch and the Invaders. They brought all the old guys together and we played a game. And after the game, we met the old fans and stuff, and brought back so much memories. And I see people now that come in and say it. And so I got this the next day. I just want to thank you again for taking a few minutes to visit me last night. It meant a lot to me, more than I can express. I didn't want to talk about it in detail in front of many people, but when I was young, from ages of 4 to 5, until I was 14, I was a victim of incest, rape, ritual abuse, and bullying. My escape was coming to Canton Invader games. Out of all the players there, you and Ken Lola always made me feel special with your genuine, authentic interaction. They never felt fake, like they were the same with everyone else. The other players were wonderful and put their arm around me in pictures and such, but when I was little, those full-blown hugs from you and Ken, and the kind words you two always spoke to me, it made me not only like a normal person, but very, very special. When I was younger and not going through the abuse, I didn't want to live. I was too young to really understand suicide, but I knew I didn't want to. When I started coming to the games, I met you, and you treated me so kindly. I found a little escape from my reality, and it helped me survive week to week. It gave me hope and something to look forward to that made me feel very good. I've always credited you and Ken Lola in my heart and saving my life, and I've always thanked the Lord for allowing me to meet you, and too at such a young age. Right when he knew I needed someone kind and caring and loving, authentic in my life. I just want you to know that last night meant more to me than I have words to express, and thank you for giving me another hug. It brought back the feeling of safety, comfort I always felt from you as a child. I hope we cross paths again someday, but until then, thank you so much for being you. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But truly, if we could change one person's life, it was worth it. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you want. I promise not to cry anymore. So, thanks. Yes.
You're still coaching youth?
Yes, I'm still fully involved in coaching. I coach 7 days a week. I run the Chagrin and Soul and Travel programs, and I'm involved at club level with North. I'm in charge of about 2,000 kids.
How do you get the kids now that when they see their idols like you, for instance, that focus on only their own brand to find the culture of the team?
Well, the culture is up to me. Okay, the culture that's in development. There's really two. As a person that's in development, there's only two things I'm in charge of. One is the culture, the environment. I'm in charge of that. The second thing is content, is what I choose to teach them. So how do I do it? The culture is always about positivity, never giving up, hard work. I say it's about three things. It's about humility, hunger, and being smart. And that means on and off the field. So it's very tough. The other day I had a meeting with all my team. They're 15-year-olds, and I said, you need hunger. When's the last time any of you didn't have a meal the next day? Nobody raised their hand. I asked them, when is the last time you didn't know you were going to have a house to live? None of them raised their hand. So it's difficult to teach that in our culture, but the way I do it is through playing time, making everyone accountable and work for it. So I don't play politics. I genuinely love all my players. I'm very tough on them, but it's uncle type, I'm as an uncle. It's tough love. And it's important that you do it age appropriate, because children grow through different stages. There's in all sports, kids go through 4 stages. The very first stage is the romance stage, where they're supposed to fall in love with the sport. So when I get a kid at 4 and 5-year-olds, I become a 4 and 5-year-old. I literally talk to them from a 4-year-old perspective, and I act like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old. You need to. That's the only way I connect with them. And since they can see me eye to eye, it's easy. So the next stage is between 12 and 13, 14 is their commitment stage. They got to learn what commitment means. So I teach them what that means. What does commitment means? And for every family, it's different. Some might have to get a better diet. Some need to go further for training. Some need to commit to training more. I don't know what it is. They all have to define that. When they're 15, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they're in the dedication stage. Okay, they have to dedicate themselves. So I hold them accountable by asking them, what sacrifices are you making? Because if you don't make a sacrifice, you're not dedicated. How are you dedicated? And you cannot be fully committed sometimes. I have a lot of kids come to me and go, Coach, I want to play Division I. You have me every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm like, okay, great. It's 2 days a week. Okay, so and you can't be a coach, say, son, dedicate yourself, but I'm only available 2 days a week. My older teams go with me 7 days a week. I have training Thanksgiving morning. I will have training Christmas morning. It's optional. They don't have to go. But I'm there. They show up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We get it done, and we go. And the final stage for youth is, where did you end up? Where did you end up? I had Mr. Kiko here just reminded me, through doing all these coaching, I helped them with their recruiting process. It doesn't work like that you just have to say, hey, you go to a tournament and they're going to come and pick you. It doesn't work like that. They have to be writing emails, they have to have videotapes, they have to just really work on branding themselves. And that's what I do, and that's why I teach them. And I use modeling. It's not a thing that I tell the kids to do that I didn't do myself. So I'm not a type of guy who would say, okay, we got to do this, and I'm actually acting completely the other way. So I don't drink, I don't smoke. I ask them to be good on and off the field. So that's because that's the only way to be. I can't tell them to do one thing and I'm doing completely opposite. And kids know it because they know if you're sincere or not. Kids can tell that, and that's why the Bible says, unless you become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, what does that mean? That means you have to be innocent. And once we forgive him, we are innocent. You have to be dependent. Children are dependent. Sure, yes, I have a lot of faith in me, but I know it wasn't without God. There's no way I would have been here. Everything that happened in my life, and that's really in life, you will all get chances. Somehow, he's always given me the opportunity to shine under pressure. When it was the time that I had to shine, I scored. The time that, I came through. And I've always given the glory to him. I know now that it was Jesus, and it took me for a long time to figure that out. And I absolutely believe in it. And, for fun, I do apologetics, by the way. I debate atheists. That's fun. I do. You get a lot of insults and everything, and they accuse me of believing in fairy tales, but they like to tell me that we came out of a lightning hitting a pool of goo 4.5 billion years ago, and that's not fairy tale. That's, with the children, I'm there for them every day. I ask them to play with purpose. That's my motto, not just kick the ball and just be different. Because one thing I've learned is it's not always good to be different, but if you are the best, you're always going to be different. So, and I kind of, and I don't talk to the kids too much about my career. I let them go. I say, go Google. Go Google it. So, yes.
Two-part question for you. Who is your favorite teammate from the Canton Invaders era? And if you're Magic Johnson, who's been your Larry Bird? Who's been your arch rival throughout your career?
Well, favorite teammate's easy. That's Ken Lola. You know, I just said everything. I mean, I didn't do any public speaking. When we first went with him and Kenny, we went to 2 schools every day. He did all the talking. I just stood in the back, you know. And I watched him when we juggled stuff together. But so my favorite teammate by far is Kenny Lawler, when I was at the Invaders. I've had better teammates at other places. You know, I had the pleasure of playing with Preki. I don't know if you know who that was, but, you know, he's one of the greatest players ever played, you know, in Tacoma. So I've had a lot of good teammates. My arch enemy, I would say probably Keith Dozier, the gentleman that I broke his leg. I don't know if you remember those days with the Louisville. We had a whole section. He wasn't blessed with hair, so there was a whole section of people who wore bald caps, and they touted him on this ship. And Steve is, I told you, the marketing genius. If you saw our bench was about, you know, 12, 15 guys can stand in there. Their bench was the size of a phone booth. This is like all crammed in there. So, and those fans sat right next to him, and they gave him so much abuse. But yeah, you know, so you know they say group dynamics. You know, every group has group dynamics: is forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. I don't believe in adjourning in sports. I think if once you play with teammates and you go to championship, that will always be with you. Right now, my teammates, like in February, I'm going back to Kansas City for a reunion. They're bringing every guy back, a lot of us back. And you know, I have friends right now. If we haven't talked for 20, 25 years, or any of them reached out to me and said, "I need this," I know I need that from, and they would do the same for me. So that's the bond that sports teaches us. It's you know, obviously I've never done any other job outside of soccer. I don't know, but I would hope in businesses, and you know, if we treat it as teamwork, that's what the same thing would happen. Yes.
How do you pronounce your last name? And I'm sure you were tempted at one point in your career by drugs or alcohol or some form of addiction. How did you avoid that?
Well, my last name is pronounced Smith. With a silent Z. Okay, it's Zolgharnian, really. And actually, in Arabic, I'm Iranian, but in Arabic it means a person that lives 2 centuries. Zolgharnian. My brother, he passed away at 27 of brain cancer. I was 30. Then my mother passed away right away, 55 of cancer. And I had but the story I did not tell you was when I turned pro at 17 and I went to told my father I wasn't going to go to college. And my father was a patriarch. And unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer like him, you're nothing. And he threw me out of the house. He wrote me a check for $1,500 and he threw me out of the house. And he was an alcoholic. He was a functioning alcoholic. As long as I've known him, he drank a bottle of Johnny Walker in 3 days, a third every night. Not during the day, never. He drank at night, and then he would sit me down and tell me, "I need to tell you one thing." And he has 5 parts and 4 subparts, and he would lecture me. So, he was a hard worker. That I learned from him. You know, I didn't talk to him for years, because he felt physical betterment is complete waste of time. And he always told me, "I'm just playing soccer because I don't want to work." So that was drilled in my head for years and years and years. And, you know, drugs, alcohol. So I drank, you know, I said I don't drink anything. 6 months ago, I literally said, "Look, I barely drink. You know, I drink socially. I don't need to get drunk. I just want to give everything up." Because I really believe we're in the end of times. And I want to make sure all my affairs are in order. And I'm ready. And, you know, based on the Bible, everything is beneficial. I mean, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Drugs, you know, it's all around you, but, you know, how do you keep it away? Well, in a way, you know, I am an addict. I'm a workaholic. I'm addicted to work and getting better. So I've learned that you deal with addiction. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. You just have to shift it. You can be addicted doing good or addicted to helping others. So that's how I've done it, you know. So I've learned to deal with that. Is, you know, I knew I was at 22, 23. I went to therapy for being a workaholic. I knew that I am just obsessed with training 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, working on my craft, reading, studying films. I had a dossier of every defender we played. Nobody really knows because I didn't share with anyone. But I kept track, and I knew I would make calls in that town for trying to figure out about their personal life, about anything, because I needed to have an edge. And that took hours and hours and hours of work to do that. But that means I just took my job seriously, way too seriously. And so,
Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome. Yes.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I just want to say, you commented that Canton was your home, but Canton is also your legacy. I remember you back during the Canton Invaders days, and how every boy and every girl wanted to go up and be a soccer player like you. We attended so many of the Canton Invaders games, and that was really our life here in Canton. And many of them, including my kids, went on, they attended your camp in the summer, they went on and they became varsity players in high school. Back then, we could only get teams together through the Y. And my son started when he was 5. And Ted over here, who raised his hand, was on that team. So we carried that love of soccer through generations.
Well, that's awesome.
My son
Thank
went
you.
on there, and his son went on to play varsity soccer. So it wasn't just the ones that were watching you. Your legacy went on for generations, and it's still going on. You started soccer here in Canton, right? And you showed that girls could play too. That was a sport thing. And 2 of the girls that were on my son's team ended up playing the girls varsity. So, we knew you as a soccer player. But after today, listening to you, I know you as a man and also as a Christian. And it's been very interesting, and I thank you for your presence in Canton.
Thank you. They say I have one more question. One more question. Who is it?
There's one right there.
Okay.
You got into your social environment. Do you miss having 4 wives?
Do I miss having what?
Four wives.
Well, listen, I've been married 4 times, but I'm married so when I got, so this is a good, I'm glad you brought that up. So, so when I got divorced the 3rd time, it was my early walk in Christianity. And every time I read the Bible, I always pray on it and I open the Bible. And I cannot tell you how many times it always went to one chapter all the time, okay? Hosea 3, Hosea 3, Hosea 3. No matter what Bible I picked up, no matter what I was flipping it, and it tells Hosea, go back to your wife and take her back. Even though she's a harlot, just tell her you want it back. That's what it tells Hosea. So, one, I kept asking, Lord, which one? And if you don't think I can, which one? So 7 years later, after I was divorced so I was working in Peachtree City. When I was working in Peachtree City, and my wife had 2.5 years left in retirement. So I wasn't going to take the job because she had retirement. She's a clerk of courts for many years at Bedford. So she told me to go ahead and take the job. I had to work. They said, you're going to work 3 weeks here, send you home 4 days. 3 weeks there, 4 days. So after 2.5 years of it, she just had it with me, and she filed for divorce. She says, that's it. I can't take this. You're never here. You don't even grill. She didn't say that. You don't do anything in the house. And I was like, honey, I'm footy. I'm not handy. So she filed for divorce, and I ended it, and I came back, and wouldn't you know it, 7 years later, and you know 7 is a big number in the Bible, we kind of reconnected and we got remarried. That was 10 years ago. So, I figured it out that if you technically remarry one of the 3, you erase one. So I'm not a 3. So my wife and I are actually each other's 3rd and 4th marriages. And there's nothing in the universe right now would pull me away from my wife or make me do anything that, you know, would make her unhappy. As we all know, happy life is happy wife. And if a man is in a forest by himself alone and he says he's sorry, is he right? So, yeah, well, thank you for bringing that up, though. Thank you so much. God bless you.